Welcome back to Why Blank Lost for the first eviction of Big Brother 27. I'm David Bloomberg, and with me once again is my co-host, who has not come for the queen and therefore will not be beheaded. It is Big Brother 21 here.
You know what? There's few things I know about Big Brother, but that is one of them. Is try not to start a public battle with the Queen of Big Brother, or just honestly any returnee in Big Brother, because it's just not going to add well. We've seen it in the past, and I already know that. I don't even take shots at David anymore because I'm scared of his power. So you would not see me doing that in the house.
Yeah, that we'll actually talk to that about that once we get to the rules. Especially don't do it when you're a nominee already. Just not smart. One of the many not smart things that we will be talking about as a spoiler, because this has definitely been an eventful first week of Big Brother,
You can say
but
that.
in a different way from usual because normally there's one big alliance forming and dominating the conversation. But in this case, we had like a bunch of smaller alliances coming into and out of existence with overlaps and people voting the way they did for a variety of reasons. Like as Ashley told Amy at one point on live feeds, Amy was like, well, how's the house voting? And Ashley said, the house doesn't want something. Everyone wants something different, which I appreciated because there is no house. The house is what you make of it. It's individuals who are here. And that leads nicely to the reason that we are here. Because for anyone who is new to the podcast, what we will do today, and indeed all season long, is compare how each evicted house guest, obviously Zae today, played compared to a set of guiding rules I originally wrote way back in 2004 and have modified ever since. We will analyze his actions using what we saw on TV, live feeds, interviews, and other information. And if you want to see these rules, the most recent published version is posted at robhasawebsite.com/Big Brother Rules. But before we get to that, and especially this week, we usually have some other things to discuss about other players, the week in general, etc. So to start, I want to talk briefly about our predictions from the preview podcast. Yes, covering your face was perfect for both of us here.
uh-huh.
Because for a moment, I thought your winner pick might get voted out first. Thanks to a shower. Okay, not really thanks to a shower, but thanks to the way she handled it after the shower. But you lucked out because she won the veto and has been doing somewhat better since then.
I mean, yes, somewhat better. It was There was no place but to go up from where she started.
Yeah.
If I
It
think
looked
if
like
there's
she was going
anything
down the drain.
down to who, but if there's anything you can take from Big Brother, just be smart about your timing in the bathroom because there's limited bathrooms. And you just remember when you grew up, like if you had a brother and sister, you're banging at the bathroom door, you're wanting to get out if you share one. This happens with 16 people. Probably don't take your time. It's probably been talked about so much more by many other people, but I
Yes.
was very worried. I can just tell you, I was like, wow, am I really going to lose week one right here? This is going to be insane. And not again, I'm having flashbacks because I'm living
And
through
I
her.
was
I'm
sitting
like,
there going,
no.
woo.
I know. Are you counting your ducks? So, but I
Yeah.
have to say, my winner pick might have been in trouble, but I think somebody else's winner pick might have
Yes.
caused a little trouble for themselves too.
Yes. Yes. By the way, I do want to mention Julie did an interview with someone and admitted that she was that Ashley was in the shower for really only quote only a half hour, and the rest of it she was talking to Vince. So that's what I meant. It was things that happened after the shower that were
Mhm.
clearly a problem. But um, yes, my winner prediction. I believe I am assigning him a chance of approximately 0% of winning now. Like for Dungeon and Dragons players out there, he would have to roll about 20 20s in a row in order to pull that off, I think. Now, we didn't
It's
see as
true.
much of it on the show. We saw a little on the show. But on the live feeds, he has managed to piss off almost everybody. He thought he had great reads. He couldn't understand why people were telling him there were multiple alliances when he had promises from like 10 people that they were all with him. Rachel went out of her way to try to help him, and he turned around and pissed her off too. It would not at all surprise me to see him go out next. That is not a spoiler. We should mention we do not talk about anything that happens after the person is evicted on the show. So you don't have to worry, anybody watching, if you don't watch the live feeds, you don't want to be spoiled, you don't have to worry about that. My whole point is it
Spoiler
would not,
free.
yeah, I would not be surprised to see him go next.
Yeah, it's one of those things when you become first HOH, there's kind of two ways really I feel like it can go through it. You either create a alliance around you or a larger alliance as it goes further, or you create another alliance that hates you. And I think your winner pick unfortunately took the latter. I mean, we know how to
He
pick
wasn't
them
even the
because
HOH. He just thought he
yeah,
was, I think.
it's wild because our HOA or our winner picks, but also our first boot picks. They were main characters this week.
Yeah, I mean, the people we thought would get voted out first because they play too hard too fast, they both remain fairly calm. Now, you were sure that Adrian was going to come out like a house on fire,
I
and
was
we barely knew he was there. He was so calm. Now, I thought Morgan would do something similar, but she was also pretty chill. I mean, other than when she was crying for like 2 days because she heard Jimmy called her a snake. But, still not nearly what I thought would happen with her.
exactly.
Now, one other thing I want to discuss, which we'll talk about more later, are the players who came into Big Brother 27 completely clueless about the game. Zae was one, which, of course, we will get to. But even worse is Kelly, who almost certainly would have been evicted if Zae had won the blockbuster. I don't think she has watched a single full episode of the show. And what's worse is she's proud of it. Or at least she was. I think a tiny, tiny bit of common sense started to hit her, but she was proud of it. She said she was bringing fresh perspective. And no, she brought dumb perspective, like volunteering to be nominated and then crying about it later. I mean, we had a running thing just last season about with me yelling. It was practically a regular segment of me yelling at people,
Every
don't
week, probably.
volunteer. Yeah. I mean, so it wouldn't have taken that much of a watch for her to realize this. Um, I I don't want to say too much more because I'm hoping we'll get to her next week. But to me, it is just plain arrogant to think you can come into a game for $750,000 and play it without having done the most basic of research. Kelly eventually realized some of this, crying and saying, I think I effed up. I thought I could do something cool, something different. And I'm like, yeah, you did F up, which is likely to happen when you come into a game without even studying the basics of it.
Exactly, and I think you made a great point of it. Is that you're playing for not $250,000, not two quarters, not half, three fourths,
Mhm.
750K. I mean, this is life changing money. I'm pretty sure everyone in this house would love that money. And I just think it's frustrating for fans and other people to watch, especially from our perspective when we're talking about the rules, where somebody who just doesn't care about not just being there, but wanting to play the game long and not preparing for
Mhm.
it. So I think it's just so frustrating to see it because I never like using a term where, oh, they're taking a chance away from somebody else. No, that's not the fact. They are there for a reason, but a little preparation would have gone a long way.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, of course, Kelly and Zay weren't the only ones to come in without any knowledge this season. Zach, we saw on the show, didn't know anything about Rachel and Brendan, showing that he had not done much studying. Now, I posted about this, and some people argued with me on TikTok, saying, "Well, he's young, so he wouldn't have been watching it back then." And I was like, "My son's younger than him, and he knows who Rachel and Brendan are." And you don't have to do much background to find out the most well known showmance in Big Brother history, not to mention that Rachel has been on multiple other shows.
Yeah.
So, uh, and then on top of that, you have Riley, ranting to Morgan in the storage room, I don't need to scheme and play the game. I came to have a good time and I have other opportunities at home. You're a bull rider in Mexico. What kind of opportunities do you have that are
Oh,
going to
hold on.
be
We might have a lot of our viewers might be bull riders in Mexico. Okay, we don't want to
okay?
alien a
Well,
full audience right there,
I mean,
David.
it's
Um,
fine, but I don't
passionate.
think he's making $750,000. He even said, well, 750,000 would be nice, but I have other opportunities. Oh, would that be like the opportunity to be there when your baby is born? No, I suspect that is not the one that you're talking about. Especially
Man,
since
we haven't even
later,
gone the rules. David is on fire tonight.
um, and then on top of it, later in the week, he told Catherine that he has feelings for her and he'd be happy to lose to her at the end.
Your favorite words to
Oh,
take
yeah.
somebody to the end and lose it. I mean, we
Yes.
are. Here's the thing, David. I actually like this, and you want to know why I like this? I like that we're speed running this season already with these people to get to where we saw players in the past seasons just wait till the end of this. Like, I'm
Yeah.
glad he got this out of the bag. I have no expectations there, and here's what I'll tell you: somehow, this man, he will walk his way through the final five. Like, he will find a way to win competitions, make alliances, and just go there and not care about. Like, that's like these play. There's always a player every season. He's the player. Will play the game completely, breaking your rules, and somehow make it his way through.
Gosh, I hope not. But yeah. Anyway, with that, as I take a breath here, do you have anything or anyone you want to discuss before we get to our next semi-regular segment?
Oh man, you know what? I think I'm very excited for our next segment because I think we've covered already a lot of ground. So let's hear what you have in mind.
All right. Well, it is time for this season's first edition of Julie Chenmunvez is wrong about blank. And as often happens, this edition comes from her interview with Entertainment Weekly after the show. She was asked what she thought about Vince's performance as HOH. And she said Vince should have gone after real threats in the game like Rachel. Yes, she said that, like Rachel. You know, Rachel, who was immediately granted full immunity this week. Good job, Julie. That's a real smart commentary there. Good job. And the interviewer who was subbing for Dalton Ross, so it wasn't even Dalton. The interviewer didn't say anything. Now maybe it might be text. I don't want it might have been I send these questions and they come back. So I guess I should note that. But really, Julie, come on, you Rachel is the one that he should have gone after.
This is a 5D move that David you can't even comprehend. Actually,
Yeah.
Julie is telling us how we can break the games of Big Brother. Maybe there was a secret portal if they started working that way and went against
Mm,
Rachel. They they break the game and automatically win. So Julie was trying to give us knowledge.
yes. Yes. Well, she should keep it. She needs it.
We got a long night. I already know. We haven't even gotten to what Zae has done wrong.
Right.
And I,
Well, yeah.
I already know you got a lot in mind. I love this.
Oh, yes. All right. Well, before we get to that, I do want to mention that although we don't have a, a version of the Big Brother rules that people can hang in their house and wear and stuff, we do have it for the Survivor rules, which are similar. And so you can go to robhasawebsite.com/yxlostfeed, scroll down to the poster and click on it, and then order it, and it will be sent to you. In addition, you can get that same poster on a t-shirt or the shirt that I'm wearing now, although you can't see it because it's hidden by my name and the microphone. But the checklist t-shirt, which is very similar to the rules that we have for Big Brother, but not quite identical, I have to admit. So again, you can go to robhasawebsite.com/yxlostfeed for those things. So with that, Zae came into Big Brother saying he didn't have any set strategies and he wanted to be adaptable, which initially, as you might recall from our preview show, sounded interesting to me because I didn't realize what was behind those words. And it turns out what's behind those words is basically nothing. It wasn't just that he didn't have a set strategy, he didn't know anything about Big Brother's strategy. Was that what did him in? Or was it his fight with Rachel, as we were led to believe on the TV episode? Or were those things more related than they might seem? At RHAP, we know Big Brother, and we know why Zae lost. Now, the first and most important rule is to scheme and plot. Some scheming and plotting should start before you ever walk into the Big Brother house. I already mentioned my thoughts on players like Kelly knowing literally nothing. And, Zay wasn't too far behind. I want to quote last season's winner, Chelsea, who said on Threads that her opinion is, quote, "You are on a show to compete for 750K. The least you can do is your homework of the inner workings on the game. Gain knowledge, study." Now, I, of course, agree 100% with her and just wish she'd be on Blue Sky to say that instead of over on Threads, where I happen to see it. But she's 100% right. Now, it turns out Zae didn't actually apply to Big Brother. I know this is a shock to you that he was a recruit. Um, he and he and Sammy, who is a friend, and Sammy, you may recall, I mentioned, I think on the preview podcast, Sammy was on Survivor previously. So the two of them applied together to the Amazing Race. And Sammy actually called into the Slop podcast this week and talked about how casting pulled Zae away from Amazing Race for Big Brother. So from that standpoint, I will say it is somewhat understandable he wasn't a super fan. However, he still had time. It wasn't like a day before they went to his home and snatched him, and he had no idea this was coming. Even Sammy acknowledged that Zae should have done more homework. From what I heard on the live feeds, I believe I heard, Zae watched last season, 5 episodes of season 20, and quote unquote researched Big Brother on Chat GPT. That is what most interviewers focused on, was the Chat GPT. Now, apparently he also talked to Corey. I'm not entirely sure of how much. So I think clearly the answer is not enough. However much it was not enough. But going back to what Sammy said, Zae should have done a lot more homework once he was in the Big Brother casting process.
Yeah, I think it's, we talked about it on our preview podcast that at this age, my worry was for Zay because I've been there. You feel like you're the most invincible thing in the earth, and
Mm-hmm.
you go into it and into different experiences and feel very confident. And so for me, I was a fan of the game, saw how it worked out, same place essentially as Zay, but you want to hope that you come in there with that confidence, but knowledge of the game that can help you. And he just felt like I think he didn't need it. And they get overconfident with their social skills because they've seen it work for them with their peers at that age, go into the game thinking it can't be that complicated. It's a reality show. And then before you know it, this is what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's I think you hit the nail on the head. You will hear me use words similar to you use throughout this podcast. And he did at times act like he knew everything. At one point on the live feeds, he and Kelly of all people, so the real brain trust there, were criticizing Amy's gameplay, saying she didn't know how to talk game. She had no idea what she was doing there, and she was a quote filler. I couldn't believe it. Two people who had no clue what was going on in the game talked about someone else being a filler.
Yeah, the self-awareness, trait did not
No.
develop yet in the game for them. But I think that's always a funny thing is when people talk about other players being so horrible while in the same house without realizing they're perpetuating the same type of
Yeah.
behavior. I mean, like it's but I think that's a pattern we saw with him throughout this entirety of this week
Mm-hmm.
of having just horrible calls, bad reads, and I don't know if that's a mixture of, like you said, overconfidence or just being blissfully unaware, or just a non-preparation, right? Probably a mixture of both.
I mean, yeah, yeah, and that comment in particular really struck me the wrong way, and it might seem like people might be like, David, we're in rule one. This is scheming and plotting. It does actually have something to do with it because he was sure he knew how to go about it. And he was just wrong. And now I mentioned already that he, quote unquote, researched Big Brother on Chat GPT. And Mike Bloom asked him about it in his parade interview. Zae said, ChatGPT gave me pretty generic advice for the most part, but I don't think there is a specific strategy or anything that could give me because there isn't one. So again, he doesn't even know what he doesn't know, but he's sure of it. He repeated this in all the interviews. There is no strategy. There is no strategy. Dude, I've been talking about the strategy for 25 freaking years. There is strategy. Look at the people who have won, and obviously we discuss them all the time. Like, instead of just talking to Chat GPT, maybe Google how to win Big Brother. Rules for winning Big Brother would have been a good start. He even told Robin Taryn he didn't think watching previous seasons would have helped because of that. To believe that this is the 27th season and there are no strategies, again, speaks to a huge ego.
Yeah, I mean, and that's part of it is we talk about scheming and plotting. Well, when you have no strategy to do so, it's not going to happen. And it's like any sport, right? It's like somebody saying playing
Mhm.
soccer and they're like, oh yeah, all we have to do is run fast and score and we will win the game.
Yeah.
Or in football, I gotta just get it to run there, score. Like there's so much strategy that goes into it. And yes, it helps you to have some inherent ideas of how things will work before going into it, but it comes down to how you play the game. I mean, it's a social game, yes, but like, I mean, David, you've been doing this for so long, right? And you can track essentially these are things you can do that will help you get further if you can just minimize your mistakes. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's a game of longevity.
Yeah. And that's the thing that he didn't seem to understand at all. Even if you say there's no strategy, well, to win, let's say that, let's for a moment just accept what he says that there's no strategy to win. There are certainly strategies to stick around, which would be the opposite of what he did, you know? And also going to your point, sporting events. I went a different route. I was thinking, like, would you go and enter a poker tournament after just Googling the hand rankings, but not having any idea, like, oh, well, all I have to do is have the best hand. Oh,
Yeah.
he bet more than me. He must have a better hand than me. I guess I'll fold. No.
Mhm.
Would you play blackjack for a huge sum of money without researching when to hit and when to fold? No. More to something he actually knows about. And I am here in the, I don't know if you can see in the chess room here. But um, you know, what would he say about someone who thought they could beat him at chess when they never
Mhm.
actually studied any strategy and just saying they could wing it? I mean, chess is a game where you do study strategies. They have names. They have moves that have names and things like that. You study them so that you know when they're coming at you and how to avoid them and and how to enact them. But he never thought to apply that to Big Brother.
No, and his one strategy was basically, I'm going to beat these people in competitions, and then you guys use me. And like, if I'm in this house, I'm going at this. Like,
Mhm.
this, it's just such a linear like idea of how the game should be played, and it's just that's 1 week. You don't think long term on that, and that's I think what's frustrating is that age is a difficult thing to overcome, and a lot of times when there's lack of life experience, but then when you're going to the Big Brother house, but then you just hinder yourself when you have this level of hubris that you don't feel like you know everything already. And so I think that
Mhm.
was my frustrations watching him in this entire weekend. Why in this rule, this is what has happened.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, almost all of that we were just talking about was before the game stuff he should have done. Now once he got into the game, I will say he put in a lot of work in, trying to scheme and plot. It just wasn't necessarily the right work. Like, he was lobbying people hard, at least ever since the veto meeting. We didn't see the live feeds before that, so we don't know. But at least since then. Um, And once we really got to see him, he was revved up. For example, Monday night, he was literally going to everyone he could in order to lobby them. And when he talked fast. Like he was going to go and he was going to tell you all the things that he had to tell you and make sure that you knew what they were. And he just kept going, which was part of the problem because you need to talk to people, with people, not at people.
Yeah, I mean, it's communication is a big part of the game there, and I sympathize with him in the fact that when you feel like your butt is in the hot seat, you feel like you have
Mhm.
to throw as much as you can, and maybe that has worked in his past in a situation where you just kind of explain your way out of it, keep talking. Issue is you're typically never in a situation where the person you're talking to has the ability to vote you out of the area you're in, and
Yeah,
so
I mean, he's a salesman. He's a door to, he
yes.
said he's a salesman. So yeah, you want to keep pushing the sales. You don't want to give someone a chance to
Hmm.
turn you down. I mean, maybe that was it. Maybe that's the mode that he was in there. Um, and it came up again when he was telling people about his fight with Rachel, because
Hmm.
it happened so late Wednesday night that by the time it happened, some people were already asleep. And because it happened over the course of multiple rooms, we didn't see nearly all of it on TV. It started outside, it went to the stairs, it went here, it went to the storage room, all over the place. But even the people who were awake still didn't see the whole thing. And so he told the story again and again and again. And, of course, he did so in a way that made it sound as bad as possible for Rachel. Rachel did so in a way that made it sound as bad as possible for him. Of course, that makes sense. But the problem was he did checkable things. Like he said Rachel was a liar while he himself was lying because he said, well, I never said that I would target her. But in fact, he had said he would target her. Not in that moment, but other people knew that he was targeting her. So, like, he was basically admitting to lying to them. And then another thing that he said that was, if people wanted to fact check him on it, certainly the live feeders were. He said on Wednesday or Thursday, Rachel's playing gender roles. It's so stupid. Meanwhile, what was the alliance we saw on TV? It was the All Guys Burger Boys alliance. So, yeah, he couldn't keep his facts straight. And as he was telling everything, even those stories, he wouldn't give people a chance to breathe.
Yeah, I mean, it needs to be a two-way conversation. And as you go on through there, when you get caught up in your lies, when you're making lies up, all these things come to all together. And it's a, he was, I want to say he was Icarus, but you have to fly to burn up. And I think for him, it was truly, he was playing a quick game already. And I think that really circles back to what we were talking about prior. If you don't understand how the game of Big Brother works, the longevity of it,
Mhm.
why don't people actually yell at each other in the beginning? And which, again, I think some people on this cast are disregarding right now is
Yeah.
try not to make unnecessary fights in the beginning of the game. And that's a conversation maybe for a later time. But I think for him, without that game knowledge, he continued to flare up, do these conversations where you really don't want to have to do right
Yeah. Now, another problem with the way he schemed and plotted, and you, I think, mentioned this a little bit, was that he pushed an idea that we have criticized here and on the Survivor version of this podcast many times. We heard a little bit of it in his final speech as he tried to say, well, we're all here to compete, and I'm a competitor. And he went into more details with other people. For example, telling Catherine on Monday night that they should get rid of people who aren't competitors, such as Amy, of course, because he wants to play with people who want to compete. And yes, okay, someone like Zae should favor this idea, but it's still a terrible argument in general. And it would be one thing if he was saying it to, for example, Zach, his bro, but that's not Catherine. She's not a jock bro. She's not there to compete in that way. She is smart enough to realize you don't want to keep people who are good in comps. So this is not a winning argument for most of the players.
now. Yeah, no, it was unsettling to see that that was the emotion he was trying to tackle because it's a bad argument. It's not going
Mm-hmm.
to help you in any shape or form. And so when you try to push that, hey, we shouldn't vote this person out because they don't pose a threat to you.
Yeah.
You're not gonna make like, oh, actually, what? That's a good idea. Maybe I should keep him here
Yeah.
instead. He was it was one of those things when you have somebody campaign so hard, it almost campaigns against him.
Right. Right. And now I will say part of the reason he was pushing the idea of being a competitor was he wanted to say he'll take out Rachel if he's stuck around. And he hoped to convince people to have him do that. And then he said in interviews that he would figure out different strategies later. But there were, of course, several problems with this. One, circle back to his ego again. How arrogant do you have to be to think you, the 23-year-old kid who knows nothing about this game, is the savior who will help the rest of the house by taking out Rachel? Okay. And then two, once again, we're going back to this thought that there weren't any actual strategies he could have known ahead of time, but he'd think something up. He's combining these things. He's bringing them together again. There is actually a third point here, but we'll get to that in a few minutes in rule 2. But those are the two main ones that, again, it's like, no, people are not going to look to you as the savior.
No, again, it comes back. We've talked about. I don't want to put it in the ground too much, but with the age wise, when you're in a house too, you're coming kind of with this youth. You're not. It's going to be hard for people older than you to take you seriously in a leadership role. Be like, hey, you're the one we want to look to. You're the one we want to take out, Rachel. And then it's just. I think that goes back of not knowing the game. It's like you don't
Yes.
understand how iconic Rachel is. There's going to be people, yes, who want to take her out, but there's going to be people who are followers of her, and there's going to be people who are scared of her. And not knowing the context of it, it becomes so difficult to navigate. This is not just any player, but also maybe a little common sense would go a long ways. Big Brother brings one player back into this house. There's probably a reason why they brought her back. You got to know. Maybe there's some other tricks going on, and maybe they don't want to have this person go out so soon.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, there is one other issue that I want to mention that we can't fully speak on it because it something happened between the TV episodes and when the live feed started. Because on the first episodes, Jimmy seemed to be pro Zae and anti Rachel. But by the time we got to live feeds, he was pro Rachel and anti Zae. And so I don't know exactly what happened. My guess, seeing Jimmy, is he realized, ooh, Rachel's good for TV. I want TV. I want to be with Rachel. Or just personality wise, the two of them meshed better than some of the others. But the point is, Jimmy was helping to lobby to get a couple other people like Lauren to go against Zae. And I don't know if Zae did something specific to Jimmy that caused it, or, it was just Jimmy switching camps that made him anti-Zae. But again, wanting to go after Rachel, now you've also ticked off Jimmy, and Jimmy has sway with some of these people.
Yep, there's so many interconnections there that, again, it's just very. Once you become and make an enemy, it sticks with you, right? Like it's hard to shake that. And it's one of those things where, yes, you might survive a week. In this case, no, you didn't, but you might survive next
Right.
week, the third week. But it sticks with you, and then you have an enemy, an ally, and it's so hard to keep that going 16 weeks in a row,
Yes.
essentially. I mean, it's kind of like when you flip a coin. You might get that tails or heads, but then when you flip it again, you're hoping for the same side to show. It gets harder, and you keep doing that progressively. You're not going to get heads 8 times in rows, typically.
Yeah.
And this is the issue of making this argument, making these fights so early on in the game.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was a lot of rule 1, but we can move on to, of course, the second rule, which says not to scheme and plot too much and to keep your scheming secret. Zae easily broke both parts of this. He had literally no secrets about where his scheming was. He wanted to be with the bros. And even more importantly, he was obvious about who he would be targeting. Now, I said a couple minutes ago that there was one more piece to what he did wrong in trying to convince people he'd be the one to take out Rachel. And we're at that point now because, well, actually, you've kind of already hit it a bit, because it might seem like a good idea to tell people he'll go after Rachel. The fact is that a number of people want Rachel to stick around for a little while. Yes, they obviously want her gone at some point. They want her gone before the finals. They're worried she can win then. But most of them would be happy to have her in the jury from what I've seen on live feeds. For now, she is either helping their games or she is acting as a shield or something like that. He made this bad assumption that everyone wanted her out and he would be the one to do it. And they all looked at him and went, I mean, not all, but most of them looked at him and went, nah, we're good. See ya.
Yeah. And I think it also understates the fact that Rachel is Rachel for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Her ability to communicate, convince other people around them, and also start to charm people around her is a strong ability that she can do, and she knows how this game works. It's just naive to try to go after something so early. Like it's.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was going to be something that could help him lift him up, and he miscalculated. But I think it was one of those things where it's not even you just swing, you threw the bat at it.
Yeah. I mean, early on, not that he knew this, but early on, Rachel was not known for being a charmer. I mean, let's face it. But she's grown. It's been a while. She's grown. She has learned. She is doing so much better at the social game, than young Rachel would have been doing. But still, even like I said, there's no way he would have known that. He only knows, the Rachel that people have told him about and the woman he's met. So yeah, it's yeah. But the other thing that expands on this was he said he was targeting anyone who voted against him in this vote. Now, if you think about it, of course, if you're up for nomination and people vote against you and you become HOH, yeah, it makes sense that you'll be targeting them. But that doesn't mean you have to say it out loud, because it made people think, well, maybe I don't want him around. What if he thinks that I voted for him? What if I considered voting for him? What if I vote for him and the vote doesn't go the way I want it? We better make sure everybody or as many people as possible vote for him so that I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, no one on the season, I shouldn't say no one, but a lot less people on the season like to keep their inside thoughts
Yes.
inside. They are just letting it all out. And it might be, again, I mean, you touched on it. I hate talking about it because I don't feel like it's part of the rules specifically,
Mm-hmm.
but I do think we're seeing a change of people playing for the television show itself versus play it for the game. And that's impacting because some of the things they're doing doesn't make sense. It
Yeah,
doesn't,
I really
within
think
our
there's
rules are.
only I think there's only a couple this season, but we'll see as it goes on. We'll see how much it is
It's
as it
early.
goes
It's
on.
our. It's
Yes.
only week. I guess
Yeah.
week 2 now, but week
Yes.
1.
Right. Right. Now there was also an issue of Zae just plain scheming too much. I would say Dolphica, who is famous for making alliance maps on social media, now on Blue Sky, said it best on Blue Sky. Zae is playing the game everyone expected Adrian to everyone expected Adrian would play after that preseason interview. He's exhausting. And yeah, we talked about it earlier. You thought that Adrian would be that way, but no, he's been fine. Zae is the one constantly in someone's ear, buzzing about something or other. It became a running joke among those posting live feed updates on Blue Sky. And I know at one point Tuesday night, I I was watching live feeds. I've been watching more live feeds than I think I ever have. And I just had to turn off the volume Tuesday night because all it was Zae lobbying so hard by saying the same things over and over and over again to the same people. And it goes back to, like I said in rule 1, you need to talk with people, not at people.
Yeah, and it's tough because again, I feel for him in those situations when you're trying so hard to convince people to do something that you feel like is the best move possible. Unfortunately, though, he wasn't able to connect and make sense there because he publicly already damaged himself so much. It's
Mhm.
one of those things is when you now cut people around you, when you over scheme, now you become such a liability right now. So working, you're over plotting, you're doing too much, and people just it's hard for them to connect with you from there.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we can go into the third rule, which tells people they need to be flexible. Zach said going into the house and then again in post game interviews that adaptability is the most important aspect of the game. So, how do you think he did here?
It's a, a tough one right here. I don't think he did the best. I think there's probably a lot more. I mean, you and I always also say we have different
Hmm.
opinions on flexibility because I have always held strong that you need to be tested to see if you're
Hmm.
flexible. And you say, no, there's other ways to do it. You
Right.
might be right. You probably are right, but I will be stubborn and stay my way. He had options this week to try to be flexible. He was pushed. He was on the block. The way you navigate that, and also in a season where there are other people on the block, there are ways you can maneuver, people you can go with. I mean, we saw players who weren't Zay get into fights this week, and essentially then talk through it, whether it's right or not. They're not really believing it. They're
Hmm.
trying to portray that they want to work with this person. This wasn't what Zay was able to do this week. I mean, he was sticking to it, and yeah, we saw what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. He said, pregame that adaptability was his secret weapon. I did not see that weapon deployed. He told Mike Bloom afterwards that his conversations with Chat GPT led him to the conclusion that he just needed to go in and be open to any strategy and go with the flow. Now, I've already talked plenty about that, but the thing is, I'm still trying to figure out what the strategy was that he was going to be open about doing. What flow was he going with? And as a matter of fact, he wasn't, he was kind of the opposite of going with the flow. He was trying to push the flow in a certain way. If he had gone with the flow, he would have realized, oh, these people don't actually want to get rid of Rachel. Maybe I should find some other way to go about things. But no, he tried to steer things. And now part of that was he was already on the block by that point and he was up against Amy. So he had to have some reason. But what he could have said, this is literally just off the top of my head right now. If he realized people wanted to keep Rachel, well, then maybe they wanted to be close to Rachel. And who was close to Rachel was Amy. So maybe they wanted to remove Amy so they could be closer to Rachel. That would have been a better selling point than I'm going to target Rachel and everyone who stands with her. And I just came up with that now. I mean, I'm
Get you
sure I'm
on.
not the first. I'm sure I'm not
Get
the
you
first
on
to
the
say it.
show. Get you
Yeah.
on the show. I mean,
Yeah.
no, truly, it's such a better strategy to tackle it that way. But also the fact that I mean, we talk about when something doesn't work, you have to pivot it. I mean, he couldn't have been given two other people who would have been easier to pitch some sort of conversation like, hey, Amy's right here, Kelly's right here.
Hmm.
Why are they worse? Why are they people you should vote to be out of this house over me? Well, there's XYZ, like you said, Amy close to Rachel. But also the fact is that there might be. I mean, we always talk about it. It's the fear. It never happens each year. We hope it
Hmm.
does, but an all girls alliance. Okay, guys. Hey, we gotta stay strong. We gotta make sure we all stay
Oh, he
together and
tried
be
that.
convincing, but be convincing about that, and then
I
make
mean, the
sure you
problem
can.
is the girls had a majority. That's part of the
Yeah,
problem. but and that's the other thing is being a bro isn't exactly a new idea on Big Brother.
no, it isn't.
Yeah.
It's been tried beforehand, but tackling different ways and then figuring out how do you pivot from that. We just didn't see
Right.
that from him.
Right. Yeah. So, since we never found his secret weapon, we can move on to the fourth rule, which says players should not let their emotions control them. Now, I don't think Zay had issues with what we would typically think of for this rule.
Mhm.
Like it wasn't, that he was refusing to go against a friend or targeting people out of dislike, but I do think he had issues in a different way. Now, earlier, I talked about Kelly and her arrogance to come into the game without studying. And we've already mentioned Zae suffered from, some of that as well. His was a little different, but we saw how he talked to and about Rachel. Again, for example, that he was going to ensure that she didn't win a second time. Really? You, Zae, you are the chosen one to stop her from winning a second time? Okay. I don't even think he knew who she was when she walked in the door, but fine, fine. Um, I but I wasn't sure. Is arrogance technically an emotion? So I did what Zae would do, and I
Oh
asked an
no.
AI.
What was the answer?
It said arrogance is not typically classified as a primary emotion, but it can be closely linked to emotions like pride and can manifest as a feeling. And it's associated with character traits like an inflated sense of self importance and a tendency to disregard others. I think that describes it pretty well, don't you?
I think the AI might know something right here.
Yeah.
I mean, I was gonna say that I feel like it's emotional maturity
Hmm.
too with this and how to handle situations like this, handle conflicts, and we just didn't see that with him. Like, I mean, there is so much like you said, it's a little atypical than what we typically rank in this section where somebody has this and does this and feels some sort of way, doesn't want to, and their heart gets clouded. No, it was just an inability to figure out other people's emotions, how that might be impacted, and then
Hmm.
see it from those other perspectives as well.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Emotional maturity. See, you're better than AI. And
Subscription, 9.99. It's a free question.
OVI. It would be
Oh yeah,
O little V capital I.
there
There we go.
is definitely a good brand somewhere in there. All
Yes.
right, I can give
Yes.
you one right answer once a year. So
So yeah, I do think pride interfered with Zay's gameplay, or maybe it defined his game because it led to so many other mistakes, both before and during his time in a house.
yeah, no, I think that's actually a very good way to put it. The way was the definition of his game, how it defined it, because that
Yeah.
really is from the beginning of it, from before and even after leaving it. Not expecting who voted him out, like the
Hmm.
pride of it all. No,
Yeah.
that's a good term.
Yeah.
All right, David AI, I like you.
Hold it. You can't spell David without AI.
That is
Um,
true. So dumb. Go to the next rule.
so the fifth rule says players need to pretend to be nice and play the social game. From the eviction episode, I think producers would like us to think that Zay was evicted because he was a jerk to Rachel. Uh, but I really don't think it was that at all. And indeed, it seemed like everyone, except maybe Rachel, liked Zay. I mean, they all hugged him on his way out, and again, except Rachel. Amy even said in her speech that she really likes him. And I'll also be quoting someone else in Rule 6 about him being likable as well. So, did you see him as having any specific problems here?
No, I mean, it's one of those things where I think he's very likable the way he comes across because I don't think he had to pretend to be nice or like I think it was the other factors that got him out of there, which is interesting to see that somebody typically, I mean, not to be too game body in it, but like his archetype, his ability, you don't see them typically go first weeks, I find. I mean, there's something else that has to trigger that. And sometimes they have to be a mean person or a not nice person. I don't think those were the reasons for him to go home. It just didn't make sense strategy
Right.
wise because that's where he was feeling at.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, the sixth rule warns against being too much of a threat. This was obviously very heavily emphasized when it came to Zay. Some of the other players talked about it, like Mickey and Amy in the eviction episode. But I want to quote from a great speech given by Ava to some of her allies on the live feeds, where she said, America will think they are the stupidest house guests alive if they evict Amy instead of Zay. She said, and this is the edited, redacted version. That is the stupidest bleep. We keep Zae and we let Amy go. Are you on bleeping drugs? I've seen the guy play chess. I see how lovable he is. I see how strong he is. Who the bleep is seriously keeping him over Amy? Are we on bleeping drugs in this bleeping house?
I was
I'm sh-
very high on her from my predictions. That's all I'm gonna
I
say.
know, I know. I'm sure that this was left out of the TV episode because there would have just been so many bleeps. Like I made a short video about this, and it has done great on TikTok and been restricted due to her repeated swear words on YouTube. So
That's no.
uh,
That's when you know you have a good video.
yes, exactly. But the point is, her points are all, I mean, on point. They're on target. People were worried that if he wasn't voted out now, he might not be nominated again because people liked him. People like Zach and Lauren and Catherine, they liked him. We heard from others on the show how he was so good at chess. Thus, again, the reason I'm in the chess room here,
The chess room.
even though I'm blocking the chess room, the chess. But we saw him. The funniest one to me was when he was speaking a second language on TV. They showed that as if to be like, only the most brilliant person in the world could possibly know a second language, you know. So I thought that was pretty funny. But the point was they were just trying to layer on as many things as they could about him being a threat.
Yeah, no, I think without all that, he's a threat, right? And I just don't think it helped that his strategy was to say, "Hey, these people aren't threats, and I am a threat, so keep
Yeah.
me in the house." So it's really truly one of those weeks where you let the person next to you on the block unravel and do this to themselves
Hmm.
because that was what he was doing. I mean, the fact that he really was able to lower the threat level of the people sitting next to him and then bring his up by that argument, and then again he said in the beginning before coming to the house how he wants to win comps. It's very obvious. You can see that he doesn't lie about it. He doesn't say he says who he's going to go against. I mean, all
Right.
those things. I mean, that's the biggest reason. This rule alone probably is the reason why he walked out of the house.
I mean, yeah, it's it's certainly a huge chunk of it. And then to add to that, one thing he said on I can't remember if it was late Wednesday or early Thursday or even where the dividing line is sometimes, but he said he was planning to nominate all the women or all women if he won HOH. And in one of his interviews, he was asked about that, and he indicated, "Oh, I didn't remember saying that because I was saying so many different things." Well, one, I'm pretty sure he said it multiple times. Two, if he was really saying that many difficult or different things and it was that difficult to keep track of, it means that he was putting the multiple ideas in multiple people's heads that could cause them to all talk and want to come for him, which would make him even more of a threat to a larger group of people.
He got to the level where we see some players in the past that they become such a threat to their own game where it
Yeah.
becomes so bad that players are like, well, let's just keep them around because like they're not going to win,
Hmm.
I if he and then sometimes they find their way back and get back in the game. He needed to take it another level. That was the only way he was trending up. Is like, can this? I'm gonna win the game. Just start yelling at people. I'm gonna win. Like his threat level, because and he did this unknowingly. That's the thing.
Right.
That's the
He did
most.
everything unknowingly.
Yeah, I don't want to say humorous. I feel bad watching it happen in front of me, but it's the fact that doing all these steps, it's like he was watching how to break the rules. He's like, yes, but he never knew. He never knew. Ignorance is not an excuse. That's for sure, especially when you're paying for $750,000. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's the
Especially when
sad
it's
thing.
intentional ignorance.
Yeah,
That's the other
intentional
thing.
ignorance to unintentionally
Yeah.
basically lose the game.
Yes. Yes. And then, of course, one more thing for this rule you brought up much earlier, which is his fight with Rachel, because starting a public argument with the returnee, always a brilliant move when you're already a nominee, like you said right at the beginning.
Right. It's the for sure way to tackle the person who has a lot of immunities around them and probably will have some other
Yep.
twists.
Yes. Yes. All right, we can go on to the seventh rule, which says to trust almost nobody. Now, this one, it's not really clear for me that it was particularly impactful, for him. Kelly, Zach, Adrian, Keanu, and Will all voted to keep Zae. I think the only person he was probably expecting was Riley, but Riley isn't exactly someone that you should want to count on, considering we discussed how he literally said he's just there to have fun, not play the game. So I don't know. I mean, a couple people I'm sure told him, yes, I'll vote your way, and didn't. But I don't know that he necessarily trusted them, because you could tell by his body language, by the look on his face. He already knew once he lost the blockbuster that he was out. I don't think that there was anything that was a big surprise to him.
Yeah, I think the only way to like for sure say or point at that this rule impacted him
Mhm.
so much is maybe, the way he believed people felt about Rachel, and he believed that, oh wait, these people really aren't, they do dislike her. They don't want to keep her here. So I think the fact that he forgot people can lie about things in this house other than him. I think that's honestly was his downfall, because thinking that you're outplaying everybody, the most, forgetting
Mhm.
that there's other players around here that are able to move the game, and that's how he trusted them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this vote was closer than most in recent Big Brother, especially most first votes. I do think that it appeared closer than it actually was. I think that a couple of the votes may have been cast the way they were because those people knew what the outcome was. I'm speaking specifically of Adrian and Will. I think both of them wanted to be able to say they stuck to their promises, even though I'm pretty sure they knew they were on the losing side. Um, we don't know 100% for sure, but I suspect if things had gotten closer, they might have flipped,
Ye-
and voted against him rather than with him.
yes, no, that's probably the. Oh, sorry, my dog's going crazy in the
Oh,
background. A second. So I lost my train of thought there. But
yeah.
yes, no, if it was closer, I think that's something they could have seen. They saw the writing on the wall. But it's for a
Mhm.
first week. It's fun to see a split house there, and it makes me wonder, even with all his failings, would he have been able to, like, if his game was just a little better, if he didn't break one of the rules, would he have gone over that hump? Because he did, like, we saw all this stuff, and we saw who he was, like, up against. And I just wonder that if it was something a little bit more there. So again, like I said, I just don't know with this rule right here how much it impacted him, because people
Right.
did trust him enough to give him a vote when he did sink his game in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Eh, With your question about one rule, I think so many of these rules were so intertwined, it would have had to be something major, like, I don't know, studying the game beforehand. You know, so,
That's a crazy idea, David.
yeah,
Don't
I know,
suggest
I know,
ideas like
I know.
that. Don't
Um,
suggest ideas like
yeah,
that.
I know. But with that, it is time almost to wrap things up. So, what are your final thoughts about Zay?
Ah, man. I mean, I feel like our predictions for Zay came true in a lot of ways, and some of my worries. I really wanted Zay to do well. I was concerned through his interviews from his age that we would just see, unfortunately, the idea that you feel like you're invincible go into the house and play that way. I mean, I think we saw Hubris completely take over it. I think I said in the beginning that I'd like to say Zay was Icarus because he burnt up and got too close to the sun, but he did not fly high and he still burnt up. I mean, the main thing that really caused his downfall was just the one lack of preparation into the game. Also, two, believing that you don't need to have that preparation. I think it's just he is a good example for any future Big Brother players to see is that you can lose the games in so many different ways, but the easiest way to lose the game is just not prepare at all and then come into the game like you don't need to learn it. And that's the ultimate downfall for him.
Yeah, the problem with what you said is he serves as a good example for other people to learn from. Is the
They're not
exact
gonna
people
want.
the exact people who would need to learn are the people who won't be studying this and learning. So it's
We'll never
kind of
watch this
funny.
even.
It's like this, it's an infinite loop there, that
That is
these same types of people will keep happening exactly because they don't learn.
so sad. I'll clip this and hopefully maybe
Yeah.
somebody will see it who's like, maybe I should learn a little bit.
Yeah. Maybe I'll put it on TikTok and eventually
Yeah.
someone will see it, you know, or
Uh,
Chat GPT will absorb that information.
Maybe it might just well. But
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on Zay, David?
So it's funny because if you recall, when we discussed Zay in our preview podcast, I mentioned that I kept forgetting he was even part of the cast because he was so generic. And in a way, he played like a generic bro who thought he could just get by on charm and muscles, even though he did show he had a brain. He just didn't use it in the right way. It is said that pride goeth before a fall. And I think that's a good way to sum up Zay's Big Brother time. He thought he didn't need to really study much or dedicate serious time to watching old seasons. Yeah, he did a little bit, but not nearly enough because he was certain there was no real strategy to follow. So he could just make it up as he went along. He didn't even know what he didn't know. And that put him in dangerous territory. One of the things he didn't know was to not make yourself a big threat, especially once you've already been nominated. He did almost everything possible to show that he was a big competitor. He had muscles and brains and a friendly demeanor. And he was coming for specifically one person, but also anyone who was working with that person or even who he thought might be working with her, which made him a bigger threat to the majority of the players in the game. He thought he could lobby everyone to convince them to keep him, but it was just too much and he wasn't good at it because he didn't really know what people wanted. Again, due in large part to his lack of research. Both Zae and Kelly have different types of ego/arrogance/pride issues. Zae believed he was in control of the game and could win comps and take on Rachel, etc. Kelly believed she was smarter than everyone else and could make moves she assumed nobody had ever thought of and lie to people's faces with impunity. The common denominator is that neither of them bothered to study one bit because they both thought they could just wing it and it would be fine. It wasn't. Both of them played the first week of and the pregame terribly, and either of them would have lost to Amy. But one of them won the blockbuster and the other one didn't. And that is why Zae lost.
Well done. I always love the first one of the season because you never disappoint. No, very true. I couldn't have said it better myself. I actually couldn't have said it better. Like legitimately, it would be impossible for me to do that.
Well,
I don't
thank
think
you.
most people could. The gift of the gab, David
Well,
Bloomberg
thank
does
you.
have.
Thank you. All right. Well, that, of course, is not quite the end of the podcast, people, because we still have our spoiler free predictions in a moment after a few other pieces of information. When I say spoiler free, I mentioned earlier, this is we wrote it down before we knew anything.
Mhm.
So, and so, if you want our full spoilery thoughts, like I said, I've been watching live feeds. I am out there. I am in those Blue Sky live feed update streets, posting things, reading things, giving my thoughts. So we are all over social media if you want to find out what all our thoughts are.
Very true. David is in the trenches. Okay, when I tell you he's in the trenches, because he's active on so many platforms. For me, though, where I discuss Big Brother and all other topics, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram and Blueski now. Thanks to David, I'm
Are
at
you on
Obi
Blue
Kabir.
Sky?
I
I
am.
still
I am on.
I still
I'm on
haven't
it.
found you.
I didn't put a profile picture, but it's there. I will put a
Okay.
profile picture right now there. I'm
Ovi
at
Kabir.
all platforms at Obi Kabir
No
and on
results
TikTok.
found for Ovi Kabir.
Is there? I will pull it out. Okay, and let me finish my blurb. And on TikTok, I'm at Basmati Boy. David is in the trenches. He's all over the place, but you can track him down. You can find him on his various accounts through his Linktree at Linktree/David Bloomberg, or you can find him on the one app that he talks about all the time, Blue Sky, as at David Bloomberg.
Yes, I encourage, of course, obviously, anyone at any other place to come over to Blue Sky for all your Big Brother discussions. So many major Big Brother accounts have moved. I've mentioned some of them, and it's just a better place. All the significant, major, or at least most. I guess I can't say all. Update accounts are there, and at least the ones I was already following. Let's put it that way. And so yeah, join us there. And on top of it, I am of course posting my videos on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. I've mentioned them already. I have been posting since Big Brother began. I have been posting at least 3 or 4 a day, sometimes as many as 6. There might have been a day where I did 7. I don't even remember. I just lost track. So much was happening. I had to get it out there. And again, I'm at David Bloomberg TV on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. So it's mostly Big Brother now, plus a few, with live feed clips among them. I mentioned the Ava one, and there were some other good ones there as well. On TikTok, I am just, as of now, by the time this goes out, I'm probably like 30 to 35 followers away on TikTok from the magic number of 10,000. So, come on and help me get to that big number. Ava's talk, the bleep talk there, that really helped push me there.
Get him
But
there, guys. Get him
that's
there
right.
so he can shut up about it. He's been texting me about it every fall that's coming in there. He's so excited. So just get him there. Share it to your grandmas and grandmies. He
Yeah.
needs to get that 10K. We're almost there.
All right.
And
Well, I was looking. Did you look at your Blue Sky account, or did you not have a chance yet?
no, I didn't have it. I didn't want to go through this stuff, but
Okay. Okay. We'll
I wish
figure
you
it
got
out.
paid as much as you talk about this.
I
This is
know. No
truly
kidding. I do too.
this is literally an all free promo he does here for Blue
Yes.
Sky. So um
Well, because it's a fun place. I want to make it fun for everyone.
hey, you are the messenger, and I love
Yes.
that. But
Yes.
let me hear. I want to hear your message of your predictions now,
Okay.
because I'm not even caught up. Like, I've been traveling all day, so I didn't even check on after the
Mhm.
show was done yesterday what is going. So I don't know the winner. So mine
Yes.
is
Well,
totally spoiler free.
I had plenty of time to write this down because the feeds didn't come back till something like, I don't know, 1:30 a.m. my time. I was fast asleep by then. So by then, these predictions had already been written. Um, so I am debating between 2 people. Now, you might have a good hint of who those 2 people are from a couple things I mentioned earlier. But I think both Keanu and Kelly are in really bad spots right now. For Kelly, uh, I mentioned earlier, I think several people talked about taking out Zae this week and her next week. And that was, that was in advance of the vote. They were talking about that. But also, Keanu has managed to piss off so many different people, including Rachel and Jimmy, and those 2 seem to have a lot of sway in the house. And that, because of that, that's what makes me think he is more likely to go. Because he has just been causing these problems and then acting like he didn't cause them. But Rachel has him pegged. There's a great, I don't think it, no, it didn't make it to the show, but there's a great image that of, he's a hugger. He loves to hug everything out, hug, hug, hug all the time, which is great. But he keeps doing it even after he's been fighting with someone. And so, like, he had this conversation with Rachel and asked for a hug, and Rachel stares right up at the camera and rolls her eyes as they're hugging it out. And that is, I think that just shows what she really thinks of him. Um, so I, I, I just think he doesn't really have very many people strongly in his corner ready to fight for him. So, I mean, he does have 3 chances to win something. He could win HOH or veto or blockbuster, and that could save him. That's something we
Mhm.
faced in making predictions last season. But my official prediction is my winner pick will fizzle in week 2.
That's a wild pick, actually, because that is your winner pick.
Mhm.
I'm not surprised there, but I'm gonna go the other way, and I think we're gonna have somebody eat their own just desserts because they messed up so much week 1. I could see Vince going home this week.
Ah.
I just think wrong side of the vote, basically. If he had the decision to his allies there, I think he's made enough people upset that where some people don't want to cross lines, who do we point to? We point to the person who caused all the issues in the first place. Don't think
Mhm.
he has very strong allies in Kelly. We'll see what happens. You make some good points for Keanu, but I think HOH itis might come full circle.
All right. Well, we have our predictions locked in now.
locked in. And as we wrap up, I want to encourage people to check out our RHAP patron program at robhasawebsite.com/patron. Rob has several patron-only podcasts for Big Brother, plus other perks like our Facebook group and Discord. You can help support shows like ours and everything on the network by becoming a patron at robhasawebsite.com/patron.
And make sure you're subscribed to all of the RHAP podcasts by going to our YX Lost feed page, or subscribe directly to all of the RHAP We Know Reality TV podcasts at weknowrealitytv.com. Or if you're just interested in Big Brother, weknowbigbrother.com. You go in, you select your podcast service of choice. You find all this great content for Big Brother. Of course, there's us, obviously. There's Taryn's live feed updates. There's the episode recaps. There's the round table. There's all sorts of things. And then with the, if you subscribe to We Know Reality TV, you also get lots of other shows that are going on right now and throughout the rest of the season.
And finally, we want to thank Scott St. Pierre, Jessica Sterling, and the whole RHAP reality TV wrap-ups behind the scene teams for all the work they do to editing and posting and everything else. We really appreciate everything they do to get our voices from our microphones to your ears. And thank you to all our viewers, our commenters, letting us know your thoughts. We're so excited to be back. Please let us know what you thought of this first week and what are your predictions for next week. What did we get wrong? I don't think we got too much wrong, but if we got something wrong, let us know, because we want to hear about it.
We'll let Zae do the research and tell us what we got wrong.
ChatGPT it. And as always, Thank you, David. I appreciate you as always. Yes. You were fiery tonight. I love it.
I was. Imagine how fiery I would have been if it were Kelly. That I was all whipped up if it were Kelly. Zae was slightly lower level, but yes, thank you, of course, Ovi, for a great starting week. I know I hit you on your day of travel here, so you picked. You picked a very busy Big Brother season to have a lot going on, as we'll talk about as the season progresses here. But even with that said, we will be right back here again next week and every week after. So everyone, we will see you then, or again, catch us on social media. Bye.
Bye.
This is RHAP. We Know Reality TV.